Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Wine, Repeat, a podcast for all you wine lovers who, if you're like me, just cannot get enough of the good stuff. I'm Janina Dore, your host, brand ambassador, wine educator, and sommelier. So stick with me as we dive deeper into this ever-evolving, wonderful world of wine. And wherever you are listening to this, cheers to you. Hello, wine friends, and welcome back to another episode. Now, if you missed last week's, which was part one of Wines of Turkey, go check it out. We were exploring the incredible white grapes, Narince and Amir. But today we're moving on to a real gem and one I find very hard to pronounce, Kalecik Karasu, or just simply KK for short, one of Turkey's most famous red grapes. And very hard to believe that in the 1970s, this grape was nearly extinct. We'll also be talking about what it's like to visit Turkey as a wine lover. Vinolus Winery has its own guest house, meaning you can sip their wines in Cappadocia, wake up surrounded by magical rock formations. This is something I just discovered on part one. And take in this incredible landscape from a hot air balloon, floating over valleys at sunrise, watching the world turn golden beneath you. That sounds way too dreamy. But beyond the beauty, we'll also tackle the challenges that Turkish wine faces and what the future holds. However, before we dive in, I have an amazing opportunity for some of you to share. Drink Exclusive, the drink industry's first ever inclusivity mentorship program. Super proud to tell you I am a mentor. And this is founded by A.D. Smith, who's also been on this podcast, and also the Three Drinkers. It's supported by legends like Jancis Robinson, the Gerard Basset Foundation, and WSET. So basically the goal is to give underrepresented voices a platform in the drinks world through mentorship. There's going to be paid content creation, career building opportunities. So if those of you living in the UK have ever felt like the drinks industry wasn't for you, this is your sign that it absolutely is, and applications are open now, as in today. So go and check it out. The link is in my show notes. Now, let's get into Turkish wine with Sila and Bron. Let us go on to red wines now. And let's talk about the indigenous red grape varieties. So is it fair to say that KK, and I'm just doing it as the slang term because you're going to pronounce it properly, KK is the most known red grape variety?
It's quite popular, but it's not the most planted. The most planted is öküz gözü, which is quite hard to pronounce.
Would you say it slower, please, for everybody?
Yes, it's öküz gözü.
To be honest, I think I'm going to give that a go. Öküz gözü.
Öküz gözü, with a G a bit more softer.
Okay. Öküz gözü.
That's better.
Okay, you know what? Fine. It might be more planted. We're going to stick with my KK. And would you pronounce this? No, do you know, I'm not doing it. Can you just do it?
Kalecik Karasu.
Kalecik.
Yeah.
So again, okay, for everybody, please look at the show notes and I'll have the spelling of the grapes. So you're pronouncing the C as like a J. Kalecik.
Yeah.
Kalecik Karasu.
Karası.
Karası. Okay, so there's an I on the end of the second word, everybody. And we're doing Karası. Kalecik Karasu. Kind of. Oh my God, if everyone could see their faces right now, honestly, oh my God, you think that I'd said something tragic about, anyway.
Don't worry, I love this. The funny thing is that this is one of my favorite black grape varieties, and mainly because being half Australian, I love shortening anything. So just saying KK is like the best thing ever.
Yeah, like, are you okay? Yeah, I've got KK. Of course I'm okay. KK.
Quite cool. It's very cool. I love it.
KK. Everybody, chill the hell out. Don't, otherwise the Turks look at you like you said this horrible, dirty word. KK. So in my glass, I have your 2022. Can you talk to me about this grape variety? Because from what I've learned, there's been a lot of work in identifying specific clones, whittling it down. And now I think there's 23 clones that are used. Obviously, qualities and even higher. So have I got the right understanding of KK?
Yeah, that's correct. It was almost extinct back in the time. And with one of the writers of the book, actually, Professor Dr. Sabit Ağoğlu, he is one of the ones that, with his studies, actually helped this grape variety to revive. And now it's thriving across Anatolia and other regions of Turkey as well.
Okay, so what does KK taste like as standard? Because again, we talked on the first episode about all the different micro terroirs. And so I assume it is going to have different nuances or identities across Turkey. But as a whole, what should people expect?
I think it's mostly red fruits coming forward, but if you go towards like other kind of like regions, it might maybe go towards black fruits. But the main thing is the cotton candy flavor that comes from it, and it's quite light bodied and light colored. The one that we have is not as light colored as it is in our terroir, but most of the time you will come across those kind of styles. But yeah, you will find, I think one of the main things is cotton candy, and that's coming from the grape itself.
It's interesting because I think that even though we say sort of this bubblegum candy, it's not overpowering. It's got that sort of Beaujolais-ish sort of thing happening, but it's not from the winemaking. This is actually the grape, which I find fascinating. What do you think?
Do you know, I just love how fruity and soft it is. Very, very approachable. I get this lovely, so this is worth pointing out. I get this really lovely red currant crunch to it. So for people thinking, you know, cotton candy, I don't know, they might be getting in their ideas, you know, confected or bubblegum or all these kind of other maybe words. No. Like it's got even like a wilder side to it, something a little bit earthy. I'm not getting the same minerality in this wine that I was getting in the whites, not at all. But there's a slight earthiness that might be coming from those soils. Actually, I should confirm, is this coming from your home vineyards? Is this from Cappadocia?
This one is actually from bush vines that are 40 years old, but it's a mix of grapes, isn't it?
Yes,
I think
it's
30% is their own grapes, and then the other 70% is from, but it's all from the same Cappadocia area.
Okay. You know, I was just going to say, so it's interesting. The red doesn't carry the same minerality, but I think this kind of earthy, wild, brambly nature perhaps is coming from that maybe in a different way.
I mean, I find it quite complex. I mean, I was just reading my tasting notes, and I've got sort of, you know, red cherry, raspberry. It feels quite ripe with some spices and cloves. The tannins are quite velvety and plush and quite plummy, with a bit of prune and figs. I mean, you know, I just kept writing stuff, you know, and it feels like there's, you know, there's a lot going on.
I don't need to say any more. You're so right. For me, in a way as well, again, it's not the best grape variety to identify, but you've already gone Beaujolais. And if we're saying Beaujolais, we're not talking about Beaujolais Nouveau or anything that's just easy drinking. This has far more grip, more tannin, more structure than that. So you would have to say one of the crus. But because you've already mentioned that, and I agree, I want to bring another grape variety, and it's something like maybe Saint Laurent from Austria, which
interesting, yeah.
Again, many people maybe haven't actually drunk, are a bit unfamiliar with, but it is that kind of more of the more crunchy red fruits, but with that undertone of some darker, wilder, plummier, prunier elements in it. But it's just, more importantly, it's a really easy drinking wine. Like if somebody likes to drink Merlot, you're going to be able to really, really enjoy this. Because actually Merlot sometimes can go much more down the spicier plush route. And I think this is that kind of version of it. So I just, again, super, just like I said in the episode before, it's got its own identity, but it's not going anywhere that people have not actually ever experienced. It's just a really well-made, beautiful, easy drinking, fruit-driven red wine with a soft amount of tannins, but very present tannins, actually.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's, like we were saying before, I think it's a wine that a Western or international palate would really appreciate.
Yeah. But
I love your fact of the sort of slightly wild brambles and things, because I'd never really thought, and now that I'm tasting it more It's funny that, isn't it?
We're so good at giving each other notes like, yes, yes.
I got that's exactly what I'm tasting. But yeah, there is that, which actually makes it even more interesting and possibly a bit more unique. It's really lovely.
Actually, this is really interesting. I will say one thing. As I spend more time with the wine, a slight smoky edge comes out. And when we were drinking the white earlier on, they got more ashy, more smoky, more literally volcanic ash.
Yeah.
As the more I swirled the wine around, which is just really, really interesting.
I think, and I've not been there. I'm actually hoping to go to Vinolus in May, which I'm really excited about.
Yay!
So excited. I've seen pictures. The soil is almost white.
Yeah.
It's got this real sort of iridescent sort of, and it, you know, obviously that's good for reflecting and all of those lovely things, but it is that very light soil. So it's a really interesting, like you said, it's got an almost ashy, and it barely rains there. You know, I think they get 300 millimeters a year or something. So
take me there now.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So I just, Bron, whilst you've been having your discoveries as an outsider, as a non-Turk, was this the grape variety that you found most fascinating, or have there been some other red wine discoveries, things that you were really surprised with?
Well, I mean, I think I've been very fortunate. I've only really been tasting Vinolus. So my, you know, the bar is set quite high in terms of Turkish wines, you know, with these wines. And, you know, they're super elegant, super complex, which I love. But other than the single varietal KK that we've just tasted, Olish also makes a blend with KK, which I love because KK I've got a massive crush on anyway. So she does a blend which is 60% KK and 40% Tempranillo.
Funny you say that, because we both have that right now, don't we?
I know. And what I love is that, you know, and the Tempranillo is from old ungrafted bush vines as well. And she is the only producer in the whole of Turkey to do this blend. So it's you know, a little bit experimental, but because I'm a fan of both Tempranillo and now KK, I just find it really interesting. It's sort of all red fruits and sour cherries and spices. And when I had it, one of my tasting notes that I kept coming back to was this sort of, just in the background was this sort of sweet, I mean, it's dry, obviously, dry wine, but it had this sweet sort of incense, almost like I was walking through, I don't know, Moroccan souk, you know, and I just,
yeah,
which I loved. And the Tempranillo adds a little bit of, I think, a bit of body or plushness and some more spices and cardamom and cinnamon. But there's this subtle oak aging going on. It's just really unique. It's sort of got these layers. I mean, you're been an amazing som. But I was thinking, you know, wine nerds or soms would find this quite interesting, and also just because of the story. It's got just an interesting story behind it.
I tell you what, I'm drinking the KK with Tempranillo, and you're so right. You have the approachable, easy drinking KK on its own, and then with the Tempranillo, not only does it give it so much more actual body and volume, but actually, I get this. It's like you said, I think like the sweetness of spices are going through like a market. And I get that because there's like this real cardamom-y thing coming out for me. But it's almost like there's this, I don't know if it's like petit falou yogurt, but it's like it's like a mixture of a yogurt and a marshmallow, like dived into a bath filled with cardamom.
I'm there.
It's really interesting because that kind of cotton candy vibe seems to come out more by having the support of Tempranillo, which is really bizarre. It's that sweetness edge, but fascinating, just so fascinating, so fun. So these reds, let's just imagine, because if we all put our minds to it positively, you guys will hopefully get the importer we need to have the wines in the UK. So everyone listening, on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
What would they retail at?
So the KK single varietal at the moment, I think Olish did for this vintage produced 5,000 bottles. And we think approximately the retail price would be about £30 for the KK. And then for the KK Tempranillo blend, that was slightly less, 3,500 bottles. Yeah. And that would retail at about 35.
See, now listen, everybody, that makes sense. You know, we're not drinking, you know, just any old plonk for your Monday night. These are very, very, very nice wines. Okay, so because the majority, and I asked you right now, the wines aren't available in America, in a few places, yes, in Europe, but the easiest way for all of us is just to come to you. Let's just make it easy on you for now. Right. So the wonderful thing is you have a guest house. So in the first episode, I think you both did a beautiful job getting people quite inspired about just fly to Turkey and just go and drink wine, go visit a vineyard. We got that one established. We know that in the region that you are, it is incredible for the caves, the hot air balloons, the incredible soils, everything, the landscape and the history. So this guest house now, we're all ready. Where do we need to fly to get to you?
So you need to fly to Kayseri Airport, which I will say it slowly again. Kayseri Airport.
No, now you just laughed, so you failed. Now you have to do it a third time.
Kayseri Airport. So it's 25 minutes from there by car. It's quite close. If you are a good driver, you can just, rent a car and explore the area yourself, or we can arrange transfers from the airport as well, because the public transport is not the best around the region. We founded the winery hotel in 2020, and it was not the best time because it came after it's just a pandemic here.
That thing.
Yeah, that thing.
What was that again? Moving on. Yeah, it came after the temporary pause.
Yes, exactly. And it was the first approach that we did is kind of, we wanted to tell our story better, connect with the wine lovers ourselves, but to get to know the wine lovers too at the same time, and tell our stories, show this amazing scenery, show our farm, show our vineyards. Which is another fun fact that I love is when you come to our winery hotel, you're gonna be introduced by our two dogs, one Merlot. And the other one is Sosis, which is called sausage in English because he's quite chubby.
But hang on a minute. Sorry, I'm going to stop you here. One gets the name of a grape and the other one gets called sausage because he's fat.
So Marla was the dog that we actually adopted, but I don't know if people are familiar, but there's quite stray animals in Turkey. And there's a lot of different dogs kind of joined the farm within the time. They've just come across our farm and they liked it and they stayed. And that's one of them is sausage. So...
Fair enough. Listen, who are we to judge? Sausage turned up. He's not going anywhere. And hang on, are you calling the first dog Marlow or Merlot?
Marlow.
The grape.
Yeah, we as a yeah, exactly, the grape. As Turkish pronunciation is more like Marlow.
I love that. I love that so much. So anybody who's coming, it's called Sunolus. So again, it's got your mum's name in the, I love that. And sun, is that actually after sunshine?
Yes, exactly. I think we found it very positive. So we kind of said Sunolus, and it's a quite sunny region as well, being continental with low rainfall. So if you want to escape from rain,
yes,
that's the place.
Pick me. So is this becoming quite a big deal, wine tourism in Cappadocia as a region?
Well, there's no winery hotels so far, but there's investments towards it. So it's kind of growing. I mean, Cappadocia region is quite big as well. So there will be other opportunities and new investments coming in. But there's a lot of different kind of like hotels that you can come across. And there's other wineries within the region that you can discover too.
Yeah.
Bron, for you, tell me. What was going to see your perspective?
Obviously, I can't think of a better holiday ever than go to a winery, meet the producers, eat wonderful food.
Me neither.
Look at, and the best thing about, winery or wine tourism is that, it's going to be incredible scenery. It's usually near some historical sites. The food and wine tend to go together. And it's just wonderful to meet locals and meet the local producers because they have the most passion. And it's great for people who may not want to drink either. I mean, I've been on, wine holidays with friends that don't drink and they just still have a great time. So I think what I found really interesting, sort of getting to know the wine regions, is that each of them, all these vineyards that are in each of these wine regions, have really started to, especially since the 90s, have really started to establish themselves as vineyard experiences, whether it's restaurants or a hotel accommodation or a tasting room, but they're very sophisticated, and I think that's what I'm loving. I've been doing some research online, and you can go from Istanbul, for example, into Thrace, might be an hour's drive, and dine, have lunch at some of the most beautiful restaurants surrounded by vines. I can't think of anything better. So, this is something that is really developing, and it's great because it's another form of revenue, for these small and mid-sized producers. And, I just think, again, like we said before, is that you can fly to a key tourist hub and go and search for these beautiful little vineyards or mid-sized vineyards, and you can have an incredible experience. I can't think of anything better.
I'm signed up. You've convinced me, so don't worry. But so hopefully people are now really putting Turkey on their wine bucket list. I hope so. When they get here, obviously we've touched on KK. Did we say this? Did I miss this? I don't know. I got excited when I was drinking. Is this the main grape? I know that it's kind of been rescued, but is this the main grape that Turkey now wants to focus on? Or are there was the other red one that I couldn't pronounce. Is there anything else?
There's my favorite, which I can't pronounce, but I love it. The English, it's called the throat scratcher.
What? Love it. You love all the translations.
I love the translations. So the throat scratcher, which is, how do you pronounce it?
Boğazkere.
Exactly.
Boğazkere. Yes, Boğazkere.
Yeah. Boğazkere.
Boğazkere. Okay.
It's
quite hard to pronounce.
I haven't tasted it yet, but it's definitely on my list of obviously the 60 indigenous grape varieties that I've got on my list. It's definitely on the top of that list because it's meant to be like a tannat. It's very sort of tannic. It's very big and busty, and it's got lots of personality, and it lives up to its name. It's called the throat scratcher for a reason, which I just love, again. So.
Would you agree with that, Sila? I assume you've tasted a fair few.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Okay. Any more reds that people should look out for?
Well, there's Papaz Karası, which is more common towards the Thrace and Aegean side, and there's a lot of other red indigenous grape varieties thrive around there as well, called Foça Karası. So if you see or hear Karası, it means black. So it's the red grapes usually that comes from that. That might be a good hint for listeners.
We need anything we can get, to be honest. Okay. And also, one more question on red grapes. So KK, does it, from if I understood again what was mentioned in the book, there is one region where it seems to do really, really well, and it's almost like its own protected region, or this is Ankara, right? Ankara.
Yeah. So Ankara is the capital, which is 3 hours car drive from Kayseri, where we are. So it's quite close, and it's originated from there, so it's basically thrive there, and they try to support that. And one of the people that actually basically helped to revive that also founded his winery there too, and he's also working on these grapes.
I think Kalecik is the area.
Yeah, it's the name.
Karası is black. So it's a black grape from that area. So you'll see, what I was finding, I kept finding other grapes with a pre-name is a different name, and then Karası. So you might have Kal Karası, that comes from Kal, which is more on the Aegean side. And then you might have another grape variety. So Karası is black. So it just means the black grape variety of that region. And obviously it grows best in that region.
Yes. Well, that's also a good indicator of tasting something that's probably more historic. If it's got that name, it's been around in that place for a decent amount of time.
Exactly.
And may have established itself. Okay, good. Whew. I don't know about everyone else listening, but I'm like, all right, can we move on from the grapes? This great conversation is exhausting. I'll tell you what, we'll do one thing before we move away from the grapes. What about international grape varieties? Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Shiraz. Is that the main
Yeah, those are I guess, the main ones. But, there's a lot of international grape varieties that you can find. I think in Terres region, they also have like Astritico, Alvarinho as well. So, like you might get surprised, but because in the Aegean side and the Thrace side, there's some Bordeaux blends that they do. So those are the kind of like the common kind of international grape varieties that you
because
might
there's no AOC, there's no regulations as such.
That can be fun though.
Exactly. And I think that just creates more experimentation and more innovation, and people are really sort of trying to find their own sort of little stamp. So, that's what I think is half the fun about Turkish sort of the wine scene. There's just so much going on, really.
Yeah, there will be no Kalecik Karasu and Tempranillo blends if there.
I just love that you had to say the full name. I'm like, what? So because everyone's like they can't handle any more grape names. You talked about, the Bordeaux blend here. You've talked about, your KK with Tempranillo. So are there any emerging developments actually happening in Turkey at the moment? Like, do you think there is something that Turkey is going to hang its hat on?
So there's definitely focus towards indigenous grape varieties, and there's a lot of studies going in that area as well. So within the many 1,400 grape varieties, we only have the 60 that we use, but that number definitely going to increase in a couple of years, and we are going to find how to work with those grape varieties as well, which is very exciting to, imagine the future about it. And at the same time, there is this big trend going on that there's more organic and sustainable kind of winemaking methods. That is another trend that's, helping to grow within the country. And also, I think with historic studies as well, there's, a little bit of like traditional parts that people, try from as well. You might find other kind of traditional wineries coming across, especially towards southeastern and eastern Turkey parts, and Cappadocia included in this too. So I think those are the main ones. And I think the new generation coming up, they travel more, they explore more. And when they come back, they're going to contribute to a lot of these things that's been learned and kept alive, and implement those things within there as well. And I think that might even include the, increase the consumption within the local areas as well.
Case in point, Sila.
Yes.
Well, yes, you will be going back soon and doing something about that as well. Bron, what's your opinion? Where do you think Turkey, or the wines of Turkey, stands out on the global stage for you, from what you've learned and what you've drunk?
I think, obviously I haven't drunk enough of.
We've never drunk enough.
Never, I know. They still got, somebody's got to do it. I think one of the strengths, obviously from a, global perspective, I think one of the strengths of Turkey is really, and I'm coming as a storyteller, is the story. And I think when you can tell a story of the journey of wine, not just the wine you've got in the bottle, but wine as a whole, holistic, that just adds so much more magic to that glass. I've got this sort of idea that, I think I was trying to position, where does Turkey sit? Because it's very ancient, as we've talked about. It goes back sort of 8,000 years, but it's also almost an emerging wine region, So where does it sit? And then I thought to myself, okay, so it's not the old thing, old world. It's not really new world. It's not European. It's not non-European. And then, maybe there's a category in the middle or somewhere which is more about ancient. It's an ancient wine region that's alongside Georgia, alongside Armenia, probably a number of others. These ancient wine regions, are obviously having a little bit more of a voice, I'd say, in the last 10, 15, 20 years. There are more people coming forward. And I think there's more respect for these regions, which is really exciting. And Turkey's part of that. So it's really sort of, how does Turkey or the producers in Turkey sort of really embrace that? And there's that, that story is so great, because if a som needs a story when they're selling their wine, or the independent wine bar needs, they need a story. Another really important fact, I don't know if I might slightly going off tandem here, is what I found really interesting was the number of women working in the wine industry in Turkey. It's, considering, it's generally a conservative, it's a Muslim country, and But for some reason, there's this huge number of women working across all levels, from viniculture in the office, that's sommeliers, owning wine businesses. And the majority of what I've read, and obviously this is just my reading, the majority of the harvests are run by women. And that just, I think it's just really interesting to sort of, thinking, the majority, I'm talking about this sort of old world, why it's quite male dominated still, in terms of managerial roles. But, going back to what Sila was saying, I think this from the 1990s onwards, there's been this move towards sort of less intervention, less use of oak, sort of, less sort of making these bigger, punchier wines, a lot lighter, a lot more complex wines. And that, and a lot of it's sustainable, organic, etc. And obviously focus on the native and indigenous grape varieties. That all plays into the hands, I think, of what modern wine drinkers, from a Western perspective at least, are really looking for. So I think that's quite exciting.
It's funny, I was just looking at all the bottles and just looking at the percentages. Actually, the whites are 12.5 and the Tempranillo KK blend is 13%. So, the KK on its own is 14, which is interesting considering the Tempranillo blend, or I should say the other way around, seems richer. But anyway, it's interesting to see where they're going. And what I would say, and I think I've already said it, but regardless of where they sit, new versus old, European versus not European, these are very commercially enjoyable wines. All of the flavors, they're not, so actually Georgian wines, and I know that that's actually me just stereotyping completely because it's not all about that, but the wines that tend to get exported anyway, you've got your orange wines, you've got your much more intense wines because obviously of the amphora and, Saperavi, wine that's just stains your teeth purple in one sip, they're quite different, or they sit in one type of wine style, a lot of it. Whereas every single one of these wines, there is that, I'm having a new experience, but I'm not being taken to the opposite direction, or, so I love the approachability of the wines.
Definitely see these on your, at a dinner table or dinner party. Yeah. And, everybody would be actually really, they've got the wow factor, but they've also very easy to drink, which I love.
What's the biggest challenge? What do we think?
I think one of the things is the taxation system. So there's quite taxes within the alcoholic beverages generally in Turkey. So because of that, the pricing kind of increase automatically. And the other one is you're not allowed to promote alcoholic beverages. So that kind of makes us struggle to connect with the wine lovers time to time, because you cannot have the websites and you cannot have the social media. But you can do it in terms of export, which, it helps us to try. And we get creative as well. We find different strategies, That's why that winery hotel is very important for us too, because we can directly connect with the wine lovers ourselves. The other one might be is basically there is not much as high consumption in Turkey.
I think, it's interesting. We spoke about this before, that I think the hallmark of a successful or a very well-known wine region is its domestic sort of awareness, consumption, pride. I mean, you look at all of the big wine regions around the world; they're all very, they love their wines. Whereas I think I read somewhere that it's approximately wine consumption in Turkey is about 1 liter per person per year.
I think that was in the book, and I was shocked.
Yes. There you go. But I did a comparison, which isn't in the book, a comparison to 67 litres, our friends in Portugal, per year, and 47 litres per person, friends in France. So, obviously it's a Muslim country, so I'm not surprised. But I think because there's this, obviously this not just a lack of awareness from a domestic point of view. They basically, one of couple of the contributors in the book actually talk about this idea of sort of a loss of cultural memory, of understanding that there's this huge heritage of, wine culture that goes back thousands and thousands of years. And you don't have to, for me, you don't have to necessarily like wine or drink wine to appreciate the fact that, you have this incredible history. So I think, sadly, without sort of domestic awareness and support, etc., it's probably a little bit difficult to get investment and to get support, outside of the larger tourist areas. But on the flip side, because I'm a glass half full kind of gal. I think there is, the positive side is that with, vineyard experiences, wine tourism, they create employment. You have to employ the local population, come to work, and hopefully from a grassroots perspective, they may lift them up just to at least be aware and to understand, how incredible this heritage that they have inherited, this legacy they've inherited. So it'll happen slowly, I think, but that, because I think wine tourism is still a relatively new endeavor, in Turkey. So, hopefully that will grow from a grassroots point of view.
Yeah, no, it's been really interesting actually to hear your perspective, Bron, because you're not from Turkey. And actually the fact that you edited that book and read everybody's stories in it, has there been actually like one really big surprise for you with all of that?
I guess for me, it's more about the fact that, there was a compilation of 16 completely different contributors from different walks of life. But the halo effect of all of them, which, and the majority were from Turkey or involved in Turkey, the halo effect of all of them was this resilience and this passion and this motivation. And, I got lots of adjectives I can keep going. But I think it's, when you read all of them, the main thing that comes out is, sure, there are challenges. It's probably not a very easy place to make wine, but there are these incredible producers and people that are supporting this heritage that they've inherited. And they're just, they're just soldiering on. And I love the fact that there's this new generation, which obviously Sila is part of, which her mum, I think, is, the first generation, sort of, it's, because her, you've got to remember, Vinolus is only opened in 2000 and had its first vintage 2009, 2010. So it's still a very young, winery and vineyard and in commercial point of view. So, there's all, but she's a pioneer and pushing all of these others. So at the center of the story, center of this book, obviously it's a bit of a homage to Molu, but it's not just about her. And I think that's what came out. It's not about her. She's not that sort of person. She would never want the limelight on her. So, but she's very much, she wants to be really celebrate and showcase what her country can do, which I think is really incredible.
And it's interesting, you touch on, yes, so many of these incredible wineries, wines, they're young, there's young winemakers, there's lots of change, but actually you touched on old vines several times in this podcast and the one before. And what I learned from the book as well is that there is an association, the Heritage Vines of Turkey. So I wrote down established in 2021. And what I love is that they've worked with the Old Vine Conference, who I've done episodes before on, because I absolutely love what the Old Vine Conference is doing, going around the world and documenting, recording where all these old vines are and helping to raise awareness, because obviously with climate change and just with the history and with DNA and with quality, and there's so much with old vines. So it's exciting that Turkey has this history, but actually in the very current past, you guys are now starting to create, I guess, more associations, non-profit structures to support that industry. So it's going to be interesting where that goes.
I think exactly. I think because at the moment, the producers have to really band together and collaborate to be able to promote what they do. They don't necessarily have state support. So I think it's one of those things that, you start to see this, and this is all quite new. All of these organizations have only really been banding together in the last decade or so. So I can only see that increasing. And, in my short time that I've been involved, it's you sort of finding out about all of these producer-led organizations that either are, banding together to go to a wine fair, or banding together to enter into competitions and awards, or banding together, like you said, to celebrate their old vines. And I think that's exciting. So there's this real collaboration, isn't there? I think the producers, of course, they're competitive, but they know they've got to band together to create awareness and to support themselves.
Yeah, which is one of the positive things that comes up from challenges. It's basically collaborated all the wineries together, and we learn how to work with each other and just support each other. And there's now wine routes coming within Turkey because of this as well, which is very important step. So
exciting.
Yes.
So is that the future of Turkish wine? What do you think, Sila? What is the future?
So I think, there's going to be more establishments when it comes to the wine routes for sure. There's going to be better, advertisements when it comes to promoting these kind of regions. Again, we are going to keeping the momentum, and we are going to, just from what was happening from last couple of years, we're going to make this legacy move forward. And there is positive trends growing on, as I mentioned before as well, with indigenous grape varieties. So that's going to be more. And I think the identity of the Turkish wines, it's going to be more subtle per region, but still open to experimentation as well, which is still a good opportunity for us at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think it's so exciting, and it's been so wonderful not only trying these wines, which get my eat, sleep, wine, repeat stamp of approval, but actually I really loved the content of what was in the book, and it was a surprise. So to sum up and finish this episode, hopefully everybody is very excited to get on the Turkish wine bandwagon and come and see you and stay. Perfect opportunity to get some sun. If people are interested in reading this book, where can they find it?
So it's currently on Amazon.
Okay, yay, something easy.
You just search for Turkish Wine, Heritage Reborn on Amazon. And, in terms of, and also the publisher. So we have a publisher in Austria, Weiser House. But I'd say Amazon is the best way to find it.
I'm going to put the link. Easy peasy. We can order ourselves for now a bottle of the Narinje, £18.10 from Vino Turco, bottle of that. And when you're halfway through and you don't care anymore, you just buy the book from Amazon, buy everything else because, you don't realize what you're doing. And then when the bottle is empty, you can sit and learn sober so you can pay attention to what's in the book and then start planning your next trip to Turkey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm there.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for sharing just a little bit of from both your perspectives. If only Oluş was here. She is actually around the corner, everybody. Probably just actually what she's drinking. She's drinking some sparkling wine in celebration for her own sparkling wine that's coming out in March.
Yeah.
So we need to watch this space. We didn't have her on because Sila has such beautiful English, and it's been really nice to have that flow. But I think all of us need to at some point come out and meet this wonderful, inspiring woman. So I definitely would love to take my time at one point and see if I can pick her brain with the help of you, Sila.
Yeah. Thank you so much for helping us celebrate this wonderful book.
Yeah.
For having us on your incredible podcast. It's been amazing.
Thank you. No, definitely worth celebrating. So I shall leave you to it and continue drinking these beautiful wines that I have not quite yet finished.
Enjoy.
So thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. So let me tell you who is on next week. I will be welcoming Amanda Barnes, a award-winning wine journalist. She is a South American wine expert. You may have read her incredible book, The South American Wine Guide. It's gorgeous. She often writes for Decanter. And I'm really happy to say she has just passed the prestigious Master of Wine exams, making her one of only 425 Master of Wines globally. So this is perfect timing as next week is Women's Day on the 8th of March. And so we're going to be digging into her incredible journey, the challenges of the Master of Wine path, and we'll be talking about trailblazing female winemakers shaping South America's wine scene. But before we go, I'll leave you with a little wine wisdom from the great Omar Khayyam. And he said, "Drink wine, this is life eternal. This is all that youth will give you. It is the season for wine, roses, and drunken friends. Be happy for this moment. This moment is your life." And as always, don't forget to share the podcast, leave a review and hit that like button. It helps more people discover these conversations. Until next week, wine friends, love and light to you all. Cheers to you.